Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Purpose and Chai podcast. I'm your co-host Tasha.
And I'm Sam.
So we wanted to carry on with last week's conversation about self-confidence, and I actually had some more things that I wanted to share about my experiences, specifically growing up as a brown girl in America, pertaining to me wanting to grow up and be an actress. So I knew pretty early on, Sam knows the story, that I wanted to act because I had auditioned to be in a school play, and I ended up booking not one role but two parts that they wanted me to play. And that was really the beginning of me starting to build some self-confidence, even though it still wavered, as it does for so many of us as time went on. But I finally found something that I felt like I was good at. And as I got older, I mentioned, I went to school at a time where European beauty standards were like it. So I didn't always feel like the most attractive girl. I didn't even feel like a slightly attractive girl. And I remember incidents of wondering like what was wrong with me. And then you grow up and you realize, no, there's nothing wrong with you. They just aren't used to seeing your features. So they just don't even know what to do with you. And then you're growing up in a country that's always promoting like lighter hair, lighter colored eyes, and so you just don't even see yourself.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I wanted to get into that specifically was because last week we touched on the word glow up. And it really does bother me because at 33, we're so like a few short years away from becoming parents and expanding our family. And I often think about what type of world I want our kids to grow up in and the things that we would teach our young girls and boys, right? And one of them being that they're beautiful no matter what, that they don't have to change things about themselves to be accepted or to feel worthy. Because I think that I don't have regrets in life, but I do think if I could change one thing about myself, it would be to get to this place sooner, which I know is not possible. And I remember specific instances where like I'm on the bus, right? And I'm in like the 7th grade. So you're what, like maybe 13 at the time? And I was really good friends with one of my classmates, and she was a really cute girl and really popular, and everybody liked her. And I remember saying, I'm going to grow up and move to LA one day, and I'm going to be an actress. And she kind of looked me up and down, and she's like, for what? Like, why? And she wanted to act. I mean, I think that's just a dream that a lot of little girls have, right? And I think now, back on that time, through probably no fault of her own, because she'd probably been conditioned to think, what space does your brown ass hold to think that you could possibly be somebody that's on our TV screens? And then I want to hear your take on this too. I moved to LA, obviously, and I was working at this job, and I'm in my 20s, and I had a coworker who was also an actress, and someone asked her to like maybe give me some tips, which I didn't need tips from her, but whatever. I guess they were just trying to be nice. And she literally looked me up and down and said, "Oh, you act?" And it brought me back to that time on the bus in the 7th grade. And this coworker was also like a young, pretty girl with lighter features than myself, somebody that would be considered European beauty standards, like completely to the T. And so I get on social media now, and sometimes I'm just like, why do we have to glorify having to change who we are in order to be accepted?
I don't think that you necessarily, I mean, it's a lot to unpack. I don't think that you necessarily have to glorify it. I just think that there's when it comes to people, right, with the two instances that you had, the one on the bus and the one as an adult, in both of those instances, both of those two people that looked you up and down were people that also aspired to be actors, right? So a lot of people, not only are they, conditioned to kind of look at life from this European beauty-centric standard, right? But they also like people who operate from a mindset of lack.
Yeah.
And not from a mindset that everyone can have something and everybody can move forward, right? When you operate from a mindset of lack, you try to place other people below you. When you operate from a mindset of opportunity, you say things to help people, or you just leave them alone, just let them figure it out on their own. For me, I think that a lot of even telling people that you want to do a certain thing, or people knowing it creates, like, it makes them uncomfortable, because maybe they're not willing to go as far as you're willing to go in order to be able to succeed or achieve your dreams. When they look at you and they go, oh, well, do you want to be an actress? It's because most people are, I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. Most people are dumb enough to believe that acting is about what you look like,
yeah,
how pretty you are,
that. Yeah.
how skinny you are, how much this you are, how big your muscles are, and it's just not that. Acting is something that it's a beautiful art form, right? But it's also it's one of those jobs where you end up getting picked for these jobs. Now you have to put in the hard work and the talent and this and that, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, any job where you have to get picked and you're in the running for a lot of different things, there are certain things that are not in your control. You're only in control of how you show up.
Right.
Outside of that, what a person thinks about you that day, what color your shirt is, your eyes, this or that, or whatever it is, you can't control those things. So I really do think that, going back to what we talked about self-confidence, I think that a lot of what happens in those spaces is when other people don't have self-confidence, they attack your self-confidence.
Well, too, just to add to that, kind of like exactly what you said, that's what they've been taught. And that's what their parents were taught. And that's just what keeps getting passed down and passed down and passed down.
Yeah, and that's why I'm such a fan of do it yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm such a fan of ownership.
Yeah.
So I'm such a fan of what Tyler Perry has done as a creator, as a creative. I mean, the man literally went from sleeping in his car on the Chitlin circuit, making plays, to having Tyler Perry Studios. We, as a society, sorry, I don't know why I keep skipping on my words today, but we as a society, right, we have these dreams and these goals, whether it be black or brown or whatever, right? We have these dreams and these goals. But then when we have these dreams and these goals, instead of building it from the ground up, because it's really hard, it's more convenient to go somewhere and get a job from somebody who doesn't understand your culture, your experiences, where you want to go, or how big your dreams are.
Right.
And then we end up complaining about it. We end up going, I can't get this and I can't get that.
Which I did, right?
And that happens, right? And I understand that happens. And you have a right as a black or brown person. I don't want people to think that I just like, just don't take any job. Anyway, you have a right to get a job in this country, whether it be an actor or a plumber or whatever it is. You have a right to get that job. And nobody should discriminate against you because of the color of your skin. At the same time, if you have dreams creatively that you can build yourself, build your dreams, build that community. Stop running to people, begging and screaming and crying and asking for jobs. Ralph Bakshi said it best when he talked about animation.
Can you tell them?
Ralph Bakshi is an animator who I believe made animations in maybe the 50s or the 60s. He did Lord of the Rings, and he did like Fritz the Cat or something like that. So he makes his own animations, but he decided to do it himself. He didn't want to put himself in a position where he was at the mercy of the studio. And he encouraged a lot of young animators, I think this was probably back in 2008 or something. He encouraged young animators to get out there and make your own stuff. Quit begging for jobs from whether it be Walt Disney or whatever company it is out there. Quit begging for these jobs. And that's all I'm saying. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror, know that we're worth it, and do the hard thing. But we got to start small and build from there. What do you think about that?
I mean, it took me a long time to even come to terms with that. And he'll tell you, because he kept telling me that. He's like, you've been here for X amount of years. You've been pursuing these dreams. You go to these auditions. Casting directors don't pick you. This is what you love. You don't want to give up on it. I need you to pivot. Pivot is a really big word in our house. We say it all the time. Sam started saying it. And what he means by that is, I need you to adapt with the times and do not let go of your dreams, but find another way to them. And that's where all of this comes into, you guys. Like, being able to sit here and just turn this camera on and be in our kitchen and reach people on the other side of the world.
In Great Britain, we got a lot of people that really like your brand in Great Britain.
I mean, even just everywhere, I get messages from the places I've never even heard of, and it's like, this was really what it was about for me, and it was about building community.
Yeah.
And in all the years that people tried to tell you you're not good enough or you don't belong, your people, like your group, your community was out there. And one of the best things to ever happen for me was being encouraged to pivot and to adapt to the internet and to embrace social media, because there's so many of us who are feeling the same thing. And now we have each other, and we can say, like, who cares about the times where people try to look us up and down and tell us we didn't belong? And I'm telling you, you belong.
Right.
I'm right here.
Right.
I look like you.
And accept yourself. Accept yourself. And the number one thing that has to be said when talking about this pivot thing, just in case somebody may stumble upon this podcast and not really truly understand the concept, you have to have patience when you're doing any of this stuff.
Which I struggled with.
You have to have patience.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to make mistakes, and you have to be willing to learn.
Which I also struggled with. Which
is also a part of the conditioning of growing up and different things like that, right? Yeah. But if you don't have patience and you're not willing to learn, and you're not willing to, try to grow and understand things, that's the thing. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. You just gotta learn something. Because at the end of the day, if you're quote unquote losing on social media, no one's gonna pass away. It's just social media.
It's like these invisible shackles that we put on ourselves are allowed to control us. And I'm guilty of it. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not. You go from struggling with one area of confidence in your life to struggling in other areas. I've come to Sam and I've cried because I'm like, why isn't this doing well that I spent hours on, or this, that, and the third, which also goes back to confidence. And then
we've talked about this at length. I'm sorry to cut you off. We've talked about this at length before, though. Even myself, it's not like I just got all the answers, something like this. I'm talking to you from a lens of what I've learned
and learning.
Right? 10 plus years ago, if I had just jumped on animating and putting it on YouTube, me and you probably would have never even met.
Yeah, no, it's
true. Because 10 plus years ago, right, when I first started college, I already had a Wacom Cintiq that I bought with my college money, my refund money. Which is a tool
that you used to draw and animate, for anyone who may not know.
I had a white MacBook,
yeah,
right, that I would use, and I bought expensive animation software. But at the time, I didn't have the confidence to step out on YouTube because I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just like, I got to get this job at Cartoon Network. I got to do this. I got to do that. When the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, Cartoon Network only has so many spots.
Same thing with acting. Even you tell me that all the time. And I could literally get teary-eyed right now, not even because I'm sad, but because I have to think about all the time that I've spent wondering and hoping and wishing that my phone would ring. Mm-hmm. And then when it doesn't, and you've been in LA for 12 years and sacrificed as much as I have, now it's no longer at a point where I don't think I'm worthy just because I haven't gotten those phone calls back or those callbacks. Now it's about, hey, so remember how when you were a kid and people looked at you like you didn't belong? Now you need to take that same concept and remove the fear that you put in place of that you put on yourself, and be unafraid to just put yourself out there and share your story, share, whatever's in your heart, like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe we'll inspire somebody else along the way. And even if we don't, for me, this is like practice, because with each piece of content I put out, I build just a little bit more confidence up in myself.
Patience.
And I realize that I have something to say. All of us have something to say.
Patience, and when you make things, don't make it to win or lose. Make it to learn something. Even if you look at some of the biggest social media stars out there, even somebody like, from a gaming content creation standpoint, somebody like Ninja, right? It took him 8 years to get to that explosive point. And then Fortnite happened, and he really kind of jumped on those trends. Him and his wife did a great job with doing that or whatever, in terms of optimizing his reach. And he ended up getting his own signature sneaker with Adidas.
Can I share?
But it takes patience. Wait real quick, because I wanted to say this, because I think this is important for the long term of anybody out there, whether they're brown or black. If you don't have patience, right? Let's say you're on a similar path to what he was on. Let's say you quit in year number 5. Then you don't get to year number 8, where everything explodes and get to this crazy, insane point. So that's just what I wanted to say. I just want people to understand the patience and the learning part of it.
I wanted to share this article that I read a couple weeks ago in GQ with Will Smith, and how he mentioned getting to meet and work with content creator Liza Koshy, and how she told him that one of the amazing, most beautiful things about the times that we're living in is that it does not have to be perfect. And that really resonated with me, and I took that and I ran with it, because I'm like, this man is an icon, right? In what he does in his field. And somehow him even starting over and branching out into the social media thing, that must have been, it's obviously something new for him.
Different.
And he has somebody who is, you know, building her own like legacy in this realm over here, right? And she's telling you that it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that the idea of perfection is something that can relate back to the self-confidence conversation, because we often use it as an excuse to psych ourselves out and to not show up and to not create and to not pursue what's in our heart.
Absolutely.
And so I really just wanted to share that, because even people that we might have grown up admiring who've done all these great things in their field, at some point, even they're just beginners and they're novices, you know, in whatever it is that they may be trying their hand at.
Right.
And I just really wanted to share that, because confidence is something that can waver at times. It's a part of the human experience, I feel. And it looks differently from when you're a kid in junior high school telling your classmate that you want to be this big, amazing thing when you grow up, to, you know, walking into spaces, even when I've gone into auditions, and maybe the other actresses don't look like me. Maybe they have different body types than I do. To, hey, even when you first meet someone that you like and you got to build up confidence to approach them. Like it's going to continuously like waver in different areas. And for me, it's just something that I try to go with the flow on. And above all, I try to remember the foundation of who it is that I am, why I'm doing anything that I'm doing, and to always remember, no pun intended, the purpose of each reason of why I'm showing up every day. And even when things scare me, trying not to beat myself up over it and still just go forth anyways. So absolutely, I really just wanted to leave it on that note. And do you have anything you want to add?
No, that's it. I think that really summed it up perfectly. You know, at the end of the day, you got to believe in yourself regardless of what anybody else says.
So as always, we appreciate you. We thank you. Please don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe. Let us know what you'd like to see more of, and we'll catch you on the next one. As always, we're both wishing you well on your journey.